We're gonna start off. I guess Ming, this is yours, correct?
That's correct. Can you guys hear me?
Yep.
Spell
Who's
Yep.
who's the background noise again? Is the guy nuts? Here, let's mute everybody.
How about everybody
Eric.
just put their microphones off?
Hmm.
Yeah, please.
Yeah,
Yes.
it wouldn't be me. Um,
No.
okay, so this is ethics or thunder model, 1/35th scale U.S. Army tractor, but there is you can build it in a civilian version. So I picked the civilian version because I can play with more colors there. Let me see. I made a point of learning new things or trying new things every build. Since there is so much to learn after getting back to the hobby. So in this particular build, I experimented with the chipping techniques, which I never did. I never did that before.
You did very well. You did very, very well.
Oh, thank you. And also, like, instead of using some of the standard techniques, like people talk about salt, people talk about hairspray or something, and also there is commercially available chipping agent. I had an idea of using white glue for a chipping agent. So this is the and I use that as an experiment to try it out using white glue, and it seems that it works. And it's just the white glue and water. I haven't used the other methods before. I haven't used the commercially available agents before, but I think it would be similar. So you have multiple layers of paint, like the base layer of rust, and then you put your agent on, and then you put the top layer of paint, and then you start scrubbing it off. And that's what I did. And it seems to work well. And also in this particular case, like, I didn't like the salt method because I don't think it can produce a refined result that in a tiny little model like this is like 3 inches long, and there is a lot of small little scratches that I want to reproduce, and that's why I didn't want to use the salt technique. But whereas I still have, after the last one, the S tank that I built, I still have a lot of white glue left. So I say that, well, can I use white glue? So, and it actually seems to work well. I need to fiddle around with it a little bit and did various tests on old models and see how it works and things like that. So, but it seems to turn out quite well. It works for me, but this is the first time using it. I don't know whether it is constantly repeatable, but it feels like that it can be repeatable. It can be repeated. So the other thing I found out about the white glue was that I can use that to mask some of the areas that I'm going to glue on. So obviously for the tractor, there are different parts that I have to paint before I glue it. So, but after I paint it, then the whole thing is paint over. So if I put on some glue, it may not glue well. So what I did was that in the areas that I'm going to put glue on after the painting, I put white glue first.
Oh.
And then I did all the work with it and the layers of paint and all that. And then at the end, when I glue it, I just scrape off the paint, because with the white glue in the bottom, it's so easy. I just scrape it off and just tear it off. Right? If there's a line, it will just,
What do you
the whole
use to
line will
scrape
come
it,
off.
Ming? What do you use to scrape it? A toothbrush or what do you use?
Two things. One is a brush. Actually, I use two brushes. One is a very stiff brush. So when chipping it off, I will put some water in the area I want to chip, and then I just scrub it with the brush. And for tiny little areas of tiny little chips, I actually stab at the model with the brush. So that makes tiny little holes. And then the other brush I use is I use again a stiff brush, but I cut off most of the brush, leaving only a little bit, and that will help me do some of the stronger rub. And for some areas that I really want to have chipping, I use a toothpick. And then just pick out the area, pick a couple of holes there first, and then start rubbing it so that it will grow in that area. And then I will stop when it's getting there. Like I don't want to do too much. But that seems to work. It's just putting some water on, toothpick or the brush, and try to get the area that you want to rub off the paint. So I find two uses of the white glue for this, and it's very interesting. So I can repeat that later on and use that for other models. The other thing that which is important in this second model, this is my second model after my retirement. By the way, this is my first model purchase after my retirement. So this is memorable. So what I did also is to reuse some of the techniques that I developed when I was building the S tank, which is the mud. So with the S tank, you see that in my background. I use chalk pastel for mud to simulate mud, and I basically use the same like the mixture that I did from the S tank. I have some left, and then I did the same thing, and it seems to work well on the wheels. So it gives the same kind of tone that I have with slightly color variation. I made some adjustment to it, but that's a reuse of what I learned from last model. The other thing that I reuse is the rust paint. In my S tank, I mix my own rust paint, and I use the same mixture. I mix quite a bit for this time, and then apply the same rust paint across the whole model. And by the way, this is all Tamiya acrylic, except for the sealer. I use a matte sealer, which is not Tamiya, but there's also acrylic. So this is completely acrylic. As I was saying that last time, that I can't stand the smell of the enamel, so I tend to stay with the acrylic. So that's pretty well it, and it's very fun build. One of the challenge of that is so tiny. I think it's the second smallest model that I built, and it's so delicate. And those are little small parts and things like that. And even the photo edge took a little bit time to juggle and put it in place and fold it and things like that. I did add the ignition wires and a couple of little wires here and there to make it more realistic, because it's an exposed engine. So exposed engine without ignition wires is not realistic. So I add a little bit of detail over there. So it's been fun. This is very small, I was so afraid of breaking it. I did make a mistake in doing that, and cost me hours to correct it. Was that when I was tinting the paint, I tinted too much. So the entire model was so dark, and I have to slowly rub it off. And it took hours to rub it off from the hood. But it seems to, right now, it seems to look okay. It can actually shows the blue that is underneath it. So that's pretty well it, and I enjoyed it pretty much. And especially the things that I get out of this is I got a couple of techniques that I can use later on in later models.
Yeah, this is really, really good. I love looking at stuff like distressed stuff like this. And just to be able to do this type of work, I think is is art in itself. Like, I mean, that just my opinion, of course, right?
Thank you,
So,
thank you.
you know,
And I love rusty stuff too, and that's why
yeah,
I was picturing it in my, one of these days I'm going to do one of these,
yeah,
and and here you go.
I think the best thing, Ming, that you've done is you've shown that it's a different technique as the scale gets smaller. I have a hard time with people using 1/35th scale techniques on 1/700 ships.
Mhm.
You know, that's
And
gorgeous.
right, and also a lot of techniques out there are for 1/24th scale
Yeah,
cars,
yeah.
Yeah, that's right, for cars. Yeah.
right? And this is tiny. This is like, I need
Yeah.
very, very refined chips.
which
Yeah.
I missed it, Ming. Which kit is this again?
This is Airfix or Thunder model.
Holy cow!
So Airfix rebooks the Thunder model. So it's
Yeah.
US tractor, it says. It's a case tractor VAI model. So it's a tiny little box. There are only two screws or two frames, and
Oh,
one piece of photo etch. But it took a long time to build because it's so small, as I was saying.
Yeah,
Like you look at that little rods at the bottom in the front wheel there. Those supporting those are all plastic, right? One little mistake, you will break the little piece of plastic there.
Ming, if you like this sort of thing, check out what Mini Art offers. They have probably
Right.
3 or 4 different tractors in 1/35th scale. And they can be complex, but they might turn out as nicely as this.
Is Mini Art based in the Ukraine?
Yes.
is.
Yes, it is.
Yeah, a
they-
whole
they
bunch
think
of
it
came
got
out-
those in
hit.
Ukraine.
They
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 closed
almost
down
got
last
hit.
week.
It's
Yeah,
in the
they closed
Crimea,
down.
and the 3 owners apparently have been mobilized in the Ukrainian National Guard.
Yeah.
Hmm. Wow.
All right.
And the other thing that I want to add is that with this, it's interesting that I'm looking to do and to build another model that is completely abandoned, like rusted all over with holes and things like that. So one step further from this. This is rusted, but it's still usable, right? So this is a tractor that you can see that it's you can imagine that it's still runnable, but there are situations where you actually have abandoned vehicles that that is rusted all over.
yeah,
Or
So I like those things. Like Dave was saying, I like those things. I like
yeah.
lots of things to play with.
Ming, check out the work from a guy named Chuck Doan, Doan.
Mm-hmm.
Poke around, take a look at his work. You'll be very impressed.
Mm-hmm. Okay, I'll do that. And that's it from me.
thank you, Ming.
Nice, beautiful work.
Very, very
Thank
cool.
you.
Very nice.
Thank you.
Good job.
Uh,
Ming. Good job.
Glenn,